Hello, and welcome to the second video of breaking down my album from the other side. This video, we're going to look into my track Satisfaction. And, oh my god, this project is quite a doozy. This is like a special version of it because I have this saved on Ableton 11 for demonstration purposes, whereas the original was done in Ableton 10. In fact, all of the album tracks were done in Ableton 10 because for some reason, some of my plugins don't work with Ableton 11, so I didn't work with 11 because of that reason. So I just want to talk about like the project as a whole first. So this was kind of a weird one in the album because I didn't really write it for the album per se, but I thought it fit the album pretty well because what happened was I wrote a version of Satisfaction a long time ago, and I made it into a piano original because I didn't sing and all that stuff, but I did upload it to YouTube, so let's check it out first. After Porter Robinson's World released, I started wanting to create that sound as, again, I'm sure a lot of producers wanted to as well. So I did a remix of this track called Home by an artist called Embers to try and imitate that world sound. So I'll play this now for you guys. Yeah, terrible, I know. But essentially what happened to make this track exist is that I combined those two sort of like failures, I would say. Well, just not as good products that I made back then, and I put them together into this track, and now it's probably one of my most favorite drops I've ever made in the album. So what I did this time around was that I built everything out of MIDI as usual first, and then I bounced it all into audio and put them up here, and then after that I just put everything down here to just sort of store and like put away. And these were all frozen and turned off, but because of this video I've turned them all back on, so I'm really worried what this is going to do. But before I jump into this, I want to showcase Felix's vocals. Felix is a friend of mine that I met through the game MapleStory. He was a MapleStory streamer back in the day, and I messaged him, we kind of like talked a bunch, and then we found out we went to the same university, so we met up, and then we hung out a bunch and played a bunch of music and did covers, and yeah, I asked him to sing, and he was like, yeah, gladly, and he did it for free too, so I really got to thank Felix for letting this happen because his voice sounds amazing. So we're gonna talk about that first. So Felix's tracks is comprised of 5 different takes that he made, and I basically picked my favorite parts out of each of the 5 takes and made sure that they were all lined up and cut perfectly, which was a difficult task because each take was so good. I actually had to find the one that had the right sort of attitude and tone in it. Something that I learned about vocal production from watching tutorials on YouTube is like it's more important to get like the tone and the attitude in than the pitch, because you can just correct the pitch but you can't really like fix the tone of a voice. With vocals, I just basically took like the stuff I learned from watching tutorials. So you have a main layer.
Cross paths for the 30th time. Still don't know how to say goodbye once again.
And usually with vocals, I like to have a layer that's an octave higher and a layer that's an octave lower. So here I have that. Kind of really quiet. I'll turn it up. Yeah, I'll show you the lower vocal line. I'll turn it up again.
Still don't know how to say goodbye once again.
So that's what's mainly going on for the vocals, and in the main vocal track, I have a couple of things running. The main thing is a vocal synth with Polyvox turned on, and then I just have it mixed at like 25% just to add a little bit more of that little robot-y type of sound. So if I play this,
and she said, I thought you'd always love me, na 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 na.
Just to add that effect a little bit. But yeah, it was great working with Felix. I was so happy he was really accommodating for me. I've worked on a track with him before, the 2 tracks on the album. So this was Satisfaction and also Lean on Your Shoulder. But I also made a track with him called We Could Have Had It All as the first one, just to sort of see what working with vocals was like. So that first track was back before he had a good mic. So after he got a good condenser mic and he had like a better acoustic setting in his room, he was like, yeah, let's do a real one and stuff like that. So I was really excited to have him on board for the album. So thank you, Felix. Okay, let's play a game called Will My Computer Explode? I have to give a shout out to my friend Christopher Siu. Check out his YouTube, by the way. He does lots of composing videos. If you're into like music that gives sort of like a Disney-esque vibe, absolutely check him out. He's a really cool guy. But he helped me by using some of his sample libraries for the chords. So I'll just play this. He sent me this. Which sounded amazing because none of my sample libraries actually did that sort of sound. None of the string libraries, I mean, that I had. I think I have one now, but either way, again, talking about layering from the last video, it's just layered with a whole bunch of stuff. So this time I have more Serum plugins than anything. So this is a sample from What About Productions, or a preset rather. And then over here we have another preset. So these are all more like squaries, a little bit of square and a little bit of a supersaw action here. Over here we have again more of that. Here though, this is probably one of my more favorite things that I did in the track, is these little sort of Game Boy-y bell-ish sounds. So just super delayed, and yeah, I don't know, it's with enough delay it just makes a cool effect, right? And then here another really quiet layer that doesn't really contribute much but still there for the eye candy, the ear candy. And then one more pad layer to put it all together. And then I exported it or stemmed it all into, I believe, here. So put it all together and we get this. The drums is a little bit interesting because this was around the time when I started to think about like making my own drums and stuff like that. And by that, I just simply mean taking other drum samples and pushing it all into one sample together. So for this project, I actually did make a snare out of this. So this is the snare for the verse, and I believe it's still here. Please tell me it's still here. No, it has to be some combination of all these snares that are in this drum rack, because I don't see myself ever deleting stuff, because it's like, oh no, but what if I need it for something else and whatever. But here, this is how I made this particular snare. So I made 2 snares for this project. Both were just combinations of a whole bunch of different samples that I had. Again, if I went through every little detail over every little element in the track, we'd be here forever. So I would like to head over to the drop, because again, it's one of my most favorite drops in the album. Let's start off with the lead first. So this is pre-bounce version of the lead. It's composed of 3 different serum presets, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, oh, 2 serum presets and 1 silent preset. So this is the first one. This is a preset from Black Octopus. Very screechy, and I had to have this EQ just to take out all the mud in the low end and get rid of a bunch of the high end to avoid like really high-pitched screeching. And then I added this LFO tool to sort of make that like a repeated note effect, because if I turn it off, you just get one solid note. And I technically could have just went into MIDI and repeated the note over and over again and just cut out like the ends and stuff like that. But I thought this was, I just wanted to do it a little bit differently, and I found out like, oh, you can just do it with LFO tool. Then it's layered with this guy. And then finally there's this layer. So a lot more retro-y and whatnot. So it just added to it. So those are the 3 main sounds that are playing, and then they got bounced to here. If I tried to play everything in here, my computer would probably explode. Here, that's the problem. I don't know if what I'm doing is right or not, because I've seen people like Virtual Riot or Illenium go through their project files, and they have like hundreds of layers, if not like more, and they can just play it just fine straight from the MIDI. I don't feel like they rarely bounce them. I don't know exactly what their workflow is, but I'm trying to learn from them. So remember how I said that this track was basically a mix mash of 2 different old projects that I had? So what I actually did was I went back into the project file for the home remix, and I took out all the presets from there and I put them into here. So this is why a lot of these were silent presets, because that's what I used for the Embers remix. So starting off with the top of the stack, we have the high layer, which is this preset. Again, it's just a super saw, so if I play it, it's just all nice and sparkly. Then we have the main body of the stack, which is, again, just a super saw. So if I play this, and then here, there's another layer, which is yet another super saw. So what I like a lot about this stack and these layers is that it kind of has that like very metallic feel or sound. So I made this the octave lower to really enhance that low/mid end. And then over here we have again another silence patch, except this time it's a lot more filtered because it's for the low end, like I was saying. And then here we have just octave notes, and this is just again more saws. So when you put them all together again, and I will show it all, well, please don't let my computer explode. Okay, well, that made it. But then it's all sort of like exported and bounced over here, so. So a little bit more EQing was done, although I don't know how I feel about that EQ. Like, I'm looking back at a lot of things here, and I'm just like, oh my god, again, I would have done it like differently. But all of these layers, most of the stuff that I usually do is I throw EQ and OTT on them, and then maybe a bit of distortion if I want it to be more distorted. So things like overdrive, camel crushers, saturators, I throw all of that in. And the important part is that I make sure that the EQing on each of the layers is for specifically their range on the stack. So if it's for the low end, I take out a lot of the high end for there to leave room for the other layers. So it's not like a sort of sound overload when you stack everything together. But yeah, like I was saying, because of all this layering that I do, I run into this issue where I just don't know how loud I actually get. And when I start trying to add other instruments in different parts of the track, like in the intro, I don't actually know how relatively loud or softer it is compared to the drop. So that's why but the piano ended up being a lot quieter, and I should have boosted it up so that it sort of matched the levels of like throughout the track at least. But that will be for the future. So of course with all the instruments, they're all grouped under this one big group here, and here I have a utility to bring down the gain to get some headroom. And then I have a sidechain compression going on here, and I also have an LFO tool going on here for more sidechaining. If you're a new producer or just learning the basics of music production, learn how to sidechain. I would say 3 things that are super important for people to learn before they do anything fancy is learn to EQ, learn to compress, and learn to just adjust levels properly. Because if you don't do those 3 properly, then you're just gonna have a pretty shit mix no matter how many fancy plugins you have. At least that's my opinion. Here's the pads or the chords during the chorus of the song. And I think it sounds really cool just because it sounds different from like a usual supersaw. So here I have a Serum preset that is a supersaw. So again, we have the supersaw because it's like a really nice sound to completely fill up the audio spectrum. So if I play it, it's got this nice like little whooshy sound, and I got a little bit of automation going there. But here, this is a really awesome layer that's vocals. It's actually this plugin called Exhale, and I love it because it's just a really nice vocal patty type of library. So if you add this on top of everything, it adds a nice little layer. And here's another Exhale layer. So if I play this, it's like, whoa, it like this came from Exhale, which is like nice. But the thing I like the most, yeah, I wanted to show the third drop, because by the time you get to a third drop in the song, it's like it better be different. So here I have the little I really enjoy that sound. I'll go over it real quickly. So it's with this plus this. So these are the presets from the lead and the drop. But then here I also have some extra things. So this is a, I forgot what library this is. Oh, Cymatics library. So we got this going. Oh God. Then it's layered with this massive preset, which sounds like this. And then it's layered with another octave below it because this is a monophonic preset. So I just had to make a second layer and drop it down an octave to add the layer. Oh God, I can feel my computer chugging. Okay, let's make this real quick now. So for the bass shots, oh my God, I was so happy when I came up with this. I was like, I need like some sort of like shot in the beat 3-4 or whatever it was. So I made a respace. This was my first one that I ever made. And then the 2 notes I have is a D sharp to an F sharp, so there's a minor 10th. And this is layered with another respace for some reason. Yeah, I'm super happy about how that came out. That third drop is really... It's one of my favorite drops, like I said, of the entire album. Like all 3 drops of Satisfaction. Because like I'm showing you guys, it's like a lot of layers, and I feel like it's the drop that I spent the most time on and the most like layers on. So that's why it's like the most good sounding, I feel like. I don't know. I did forget to mention one thing, and that is reference tracks. I feel like that is super, super important, and I wish I did this more. Back when I was working on these tracks, was you just simply make a group and then you throw in the tracks that you're sort of like inspired by or trying to imitate into the project folder, so you can actually look at things like the EQ and just sort of like how the song or the track looks in like audio spectrum or like an analyzer or stuff like that. You can even use reference tracks to guide your mastering and stuff like that. But for me, the inspiration slash references that I used for Satisfaction was Lionhearted by Porter Robinson, Flicker, absolutely Flicker, and then Skyscrapers by Daydreamer. And then for the bridge, or like the lead up into the third chorus slash drop, is Graveyard by Friend. And I would play all of these for you, but copyright. So I'm gonna pull up a different file in this project folder. This is basically what happened when I started learning more stuff and wanting to add more to it, but the project files were really messed up and everything, so I had to work with stems instead of other things. This was when I was really just sort of fixing all my mistakes from previous times. So one of the things that I do a lot is I just let MIDI stuff run, and then after I stemmed them out, I would actually just cut out the audio for the tail ends of some like lingering things like delay and reverb, because instead of just shutting it off completely, I just cut it off. One of the things I added to the drop that really helped with the way it sounded was I added one extra layer of super saws into the chord stack. And so this is the only MIDI thing that adds on top of the chord. So normally what I had was here. You can probably hear it. It's kind of missing a bit of body, right? It's missing a little bit of that low end. So I added this. And now if I put it all together, problem solved. So yeah, this is usually what my project files look like when I'm at the mixing stage and I'm trying to just sort of meticulously take care of all the levels and EQing and compression and whatever. So this is what it looks like when I'm near the end of the stage. And then what should happen is that I put stuff on the master chain to master it, because at that point it's like I don't feel like I need to export it and then master it again. Although I know like mixing and mastering are two completely different things, and if you were to give something to a mastering engineer, he would probably want just like the one single track of the mix, so keep that in mind, but this is just my workflow. Okay, I know this was a mouthful, but I hope you guys gained a little bit of insight on just sort of the production process of this track, and then sort of like the improvements that I wanted to make after I finished making like the first version of this track and all that. I hope you enjoyed watching this nonetheless, and maybe for the newer producers out there, maybe they have learned a little something here and there. I'm certainly not the best role model or teacher for music production, but if you learned anything, well, I appreciate it. With that being said, I will see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Bye bye.